So most brands really struggle with working with meta ads. They want to use it to grow their business, but then they don't know how, and then it fails and they waste a lot of money. And so a lot of brands approach meta ads with a lot of fear and apprehension. And so in this video, I want to break down exactly why meta ads fails for small campaigns or small budgets, and what you can do to make meta ads really one of your primary drivers for new customer acquisition and growth for your business. And so my name's Nathan. I run ads for brands and for creators and help them scale. And so really what I saw in the beginning was people who would work with a small budget really struggled. And so let me define that really quick. I define a small budget as anything less than $3,000 a month, or about $100 a day. And I define anything on a tiny budget as $30 or less, or about $900. And to a lot of people, that is a lot of money. And that's where I started, and that's kind of where my first clients were. But as I grew over time, we saw larger and larger budgets, we saw bigger results, and so that is small at this point. When you are operating with such a limited capacity, you have to be bang on. You have to be spot on with all your marketing and everything and how it's structured. Otherwise, you're going to burn money. We're going to jump to the doc, but the main things I see is that people are operating with the wrong objective, the wrong creative, or just a general lack of patience. And so we'll break those down more, but that's the very high level. And really, on Meta, just to succeed, like you on a budget below $50, you can make it work with $10 to $25 even, but you have to be very, very tactical, and you have to adjust your expectations. And so just this is a general setup thing. I see a lot of people don't do this, which is super weird to me. A lot of people don't link their Instagram to their Facebook ad account, and that just doesn't make sense to me. You're just losing money right off the bat, because for most brands, if you're just starting to get to the meta ads point, you already have a significant footprint on Instagram. Maybe you have 1,000 followers, maybe you have 10,000, maybe you have 30,000, right? But if you don't link your Instagram to your ad account, when someone sees your ad, it will come from a generic account. And so if they click it and go into your profile, they'll just see this random thing or a link to your Facebook, and Facebook usually has less likes, less followers than Instagram, and they'll be like, who the heck are you? And so you lose social proof. And so this is super important. Also, just make sure you have a pixel on your website and you run the conversions API, have a solid landing page. I have videos on this on my channel. You can go check it out. But the biggest obstacle I often see people running is meta objectives. And so meta is a very, very literal algorithm. You tell it what to do and it will go and do it. But often people confuse this, and they use a couple different objectives that confuse it. And so these are all the objectives. I've defined them here: sales, leads, traffic, engagement, awareness. There's a few others, but they're not as relevant. And so when you're on a low budget campaign, I don't want you to run any of these three. So no traffic, no engagement, no awareness campaigns, because they just kind of burn money, right? What you want to do, and what the strategy is when you're low budget, is use the budget you have to get customers, and then reinvest that to get more customers and start to spin the flywheel, right? And it'll go faster and faster as you grow. But in the beginning, if you spend money, traffic will get you people that click. And so they click a lot, but they don't really do anything. Engagement, they'll like your post, but then they won't buy. And awareness just shows it to as many people as possible. Again, in the beginning, no engagement, no traffic, no awareness campaigns. The only caveat is if you are running a hot awareness content campaign. Typically, if you're doing this, you have a really expensive item or a coaching program. So think like over $1,000. And this continuously puts your content and puts your marketing in front of people to warm them up to buy. But if you're not doing this, if you're running a standard e-com or just like looking for leads for your business, you don't need to do this. The next step I want to do is to have you set up your custom audience. And on Meta, when you have a really low budget, we actually want to go get customers that are already warm or hot because they convert at a higher likelihood. They spend more money because they already know who you are. And so just to define those, a cold audience is someone who's never heard of you before. And a warm audience or a hot audience is someone who has or is really interested in your product. Now, meta ads will work for both cold and warm and hot audiences. But in the beginning, when you're got a low budget, it's a lot easier to convert people who are warm or hot than someone who's never heard of you before. And so this is pretty simple. Let me actually show you how to do this. So this is an ad account. This is just one of my ad accounts that I use. And so if you open it and click audiences, it'll take you to this page. From here, you can click create an audience, custom audience, and you can choose a source from your own site or your Instagram or whatever you want. And so typically what I'll create is one that just tracks everybody who's interacted with our website visitors for maybe the last 180 days. And so we'll just name it website engagers 180 days, create an audience. And you can see that populates it. We can create another audience. This is just based on everyone who's interacted with your personal profile, everyone who's engaged for the last 180 days or whatever you want, right? This is a great way to kind of let Meta know in advance who is warm, who is a warm or hot audience to you, because they've already engaged with your website, or they're a customer, or they've engaged with your Instagram. So moving on from creating your custom audiences, so most brands here, again, they fail because they've started with the wrong objectives in the first place. They want to convert totally brand new cold audiences, or they haven't set up their traffic campaigns for the right thing. One example of this is I see a lot of brands running boosted posts and just to get more awareness to their page. And I think that's a horrendous use of money. It's much better to just run something that gets customers directly. So ad creatives. In 2026 and moving forward with the Andromeda update, really Meta has said, we don't really care about your targeting. Instead, we're just going to use your creative or your image or your video that you give to us, and we're going to take that and go find the best customers for you. And so their algorithm is incredibly advanced. It's really great. It's also very hungry for creatives. And really, creative is the new targeting. And so you can do all this fancy like targeting stuff. That doesn't matter anymore. Just a couple points. I think videos are much better than images. And to do so, you need to optimize really the first 3 seconds, because if you think about your own behavior as you're scrolling on your phone, you just look for a couple of seconds before you're like, hey, this is interesting, or hey, I'm bored, and you move on. And so you really want those first 3 seconds to be really, really good in order to capture someone's attention to keep them around. And so often what we recommend is you have really one clear message. So one audience, we'll get to this in a minute. And you want to highlight the benefit of your product immediately if you have one. So if you're selling a brand new dish detergent that cleans plates 100% better, right? You want to highlight that immediately for someone. And just from a general formatting size, do a 9:16 vertical format. That works really well. I mentioned earlier that you want to be very specific about your customer. And because the thing is, when you are a small brand with a tiny or a small budget, you're going against juggernauts in this space. These guys kind of outmatch you in everything from how much money they have to how much they can afford to spend to get a new customer to their marketing and creatives. They're all really, really well done because they have tons of money to invest. And you don't, and that's okay, right? But instead, what you want to do is be hyper specific about who is the audience you are marketing to, right? And so a great way to think about this is to take all your customers who have ever bought from you and say, well, who is the best I work with and who makes me the most money, right? And to take that and say, well, what do they care about? What messaging stands out to them? And so just as an example, I have a client who runs a gym brand for gym clothing rather. And so he has a couple different avatars because he sells for men and women, but women are his highest margin product. He makes about 90% profit per item sold to women, and that's great. And of those products, the women who buy, the ones who are the most invested buy over and over and over. And so there's a certain demographic there that continuously buys. And so the question we ask a lot is, well, what do they care about? What is the messaging we want to craft towards them? And often it's about being really comfortable and looking really good, having like a snatched waistline or like a hourglass body shape based on their clothes. And so that's what we produce. Another example, and I made a full video on this, is True Classic. They have 3 big customer avatars and really go through and say, well, what matters to each one, and then build a ton of creatives around that. All your messaging and all your ads should be about this one thing to this very specific buyer, because you'll do the best, you'll make the most money, and we will make up with specificity with what we don't have in terms of ad budget. And so I just wanted to give a couple of tips before I talk about the structure of the campaign. And so this is a great platform. This is the Meta Ads library. If you've never seen this before, this houses all the ads that are currently active and some that are inactive on Meta's platform. And so for example, if I wanted to look up, hey, there's True Classic, I can look at all their ads that they're currently running in the US or all. And so they have 840 ads, can go through. But if you're just interested in something, maybe you're running streetwear, right? So we can search streetwear, go look for it, and we can see all these different ads from our competitors that are running. One way to think about this is the longer the ad has been running, the better it's doing. And so for example, an ad that just started maybe on, this is 389 days. So man, no one will keep an ad running if it isn't doing well. And so this ad's probably printing. And so you can take a look at this ad and see, well, hey, what's going on here? What did they say? Well, this is summer sale up to 60% off. It's been running since June 10th. And so, hey, maybe this offer is really good, or maybe the format is really eye-catching. Or, hey, we'll just continue on to this one. This one's been running 123 days. But so you can kind of data mine and see, well, what are my competitors running? What formats are really working and continuing to do well? And instead of recreating everything from scratch, you can look and see what's working and do that yourself. And so this will save you so much time, it's unreal. Other things, if you're struggling a lot with how to create posts, you can do some UGC. Often people will send product for a post. So you send your item and then they'll make you a post that you can then use. I also have my 2x5 method, which I think is great. Basically, you ask your UGC people to make 2 bodies and 5 intros, and then kind of take each intro versus a separate body. Therefore, you have 10 pieces of UGC to test for about twice the price. And finally, just a quick tip that people don't actually think about a lot, but use your organic content. So the stuff you post on Instagram or social media that is doing really well, take that, run it as an ad. Because if it does well on Instagram, it's going to do well on your ads. Now, getting to the structure of your campaign, we really want to reduce variables. And so if you go online on Reddit, you'll read all this stuff from like, do I do ABO, CBO? Do I do this ASC campaign, right? And we want to throw that all out the window, because at a scale of $10 to $30 on this really tiny budget, we just want to get sales. We just want to get conversions. And so we want to keep things really simple. And so my optimal setup is one ad campaign, one ad set, have this be on a CBO, although it doesn't really matter if you have one campaign and one ad set, and just run, 3 to 5 creatives maybe. We just want to test and see what's best. And so for this, you want one offer and one product. If you have too many offers, it kind of gets confusing to see what works. If you have too many products, again, same thing. And so take your best product that gives you the best margins or is the best seller and make one offer for it. Maybe it's 15% off. Maybe it's buy 3, get 1 free. Think about it and come up with one thing, because we want to test this. So any more than this campaign and your algorithm will start to break. Remember, the goal here is not to scale massively right away. It's to find proof of concept. We're trying to find the stuff that works so we can start to scale it. And so we want to test things, find proof of concept to then go out and win more customers. And so in order to scale, I want you to start exercising more patience. And a lot of people don't do this. They will run a campaign, they'll change something after one day when they see it's not working. But on a small budget, what Meta is doing is it's in a learning phase where it's showing ad creatives to a bunch of different people in order to see what works. And so when you make a significant edit, it resets your machine learning, which resets your process. And so if you go 2 days, you're like, this isn't working. I'm going to change one of my settings for my campaign or my ad set or add in a whole new creatives. It resets your machine learning so you never get the results you want. And as an expectations thing, if you're running a really small budget, we're looking for conversions, and that might take a lot of time. If you're getting 1,000 conversions a week, Meta locks in really, really fast, and it can lock in within 2 hours and say like, I know what you're looking for. I know what it's all about. When you're getting a lot fewer conversions per day, like if it's 1 or even 0, Meta is going to take a lot more time, up to even 2 months. And so we need to adjust our expectations for a small or tiny budget and do this based on conversion volume. In order to see if an ad is performing better than another, you can look up a thing. It's called statistical significance, and it's basically saying, well, is this ad really that much better? And you're looking for 90% plus. This is just a stats thing. You can find a free calculator online. It's super great. And so we're looking for the best ad, and you want to make sure it's statistically significant better than the other ads. Other than that, exercise patience. Don't do anything to the ad account until you have enough data to actually make a decision. But during this time, like, I don't want you just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. You can do other things. You can make more ad creatives. You can work on your messaging or post more organic content and see what does well. So you should be doing other things during this 7-day. But again, my rule here for low, small, or tiny budgets is to be hands off for at least 7 days until you see what is working or what is not. So I'm going to teach you how to read your numbers. These will differ based on your industry. You can go search up like industry benchmarks. It'll show you a ton of stuff. But if you have a low click-through rate, this means your hook is kind of uninteresting and people don't really care. So what you'll need to do is go back to the first 3 seconds and really edit that to make it tight and crisp and make sense. If you have a really high CPC or cost per click, that means your ad isn't really relevant. You know, we're not getting that hyper specificity that we talked about earlier. And so again, go back and change your ad, change your messaging to really call out to the specific person you're looking for. If you're looking for companies that sell more than $10,000 a month, right? Like, say that. If you're looking for gym goers who really care about their pump, that are women and female in this age range, say that. We want to be very specific here in order to get the right customer. If you're having a low conversion rate, that typically means your landing page has something wrong with it. And so I'd go back and just edit it, make sure you have social proof, make sure you have free shipping or how to get shipping, right? And stuff like that. And so the best thing to look for is your CPA or your cost per acquisition, meaning how much do you spend to acquire a customer. And so you want to think about what is profitable for you. Do the margins make sense? If you're acquiring a customer for $20 and they spend $100 with you, like, hey, that's pretty good. And so one thing I ask customers a lot is like, well, how much are you willing to spend to get a customer? And often it's pretty conservative, like, oh, maybe $30. And I'm like, how much do you make per customer? Well, 100. Okay, so if I gave you a magic box where every time you pressed it, you spent $50, but you got $100. Would you make that trade? And oftentimes they say yes, all day, like we do that. And so just think about that. What is your CPA? What would it cost you to acquire a customer that is very profitable? This will depend on industry and your product. If you're an info, right, maybe you have 0 cost to deliver, and so your profitability is great. And so 1.5 times ROAS is great, or like a CPA of $500, also great. And if you're an e-com, maybe your margins are a little tighter, and so that doesn't make sense. So think about what matters to you, think about the best ways to do this, and again, watch for your CPA. After we've established proof of concept, we can start to reinvest in scale and become a stepping stone to spending more and more and more. What I recommend is to have 7 days of consistent CPA metrics. And once you're ready to scale, increasing this budget no more than 20% of the time. Do that and then give your campaign 3 to 4 days to let it just stabilize a little bit and then continue on. Some things to watch out for: if your CPA is at or below target cost for 7 days, you're good to scale. If it's above, I'd take a pause. If your creative is not fatiguing, so you're looking for a metric called frequency, this is basically how many times is someone seeing your ad. If you're over 2.5 to 3 times, that's a bad sign, because it means the algorithm basically is showing the same ad to the same people because it can't find enough new audiences. And so we need to kill this ad because people are fatiguing. Check if your conversion rate is stable, and then again, increase your budget less than 20% per per day. And so this is my grand breakdown for how to really scale small or tiny budgets. This is a hard task, but not an impossible task. And it's one we do a lot for our clients. But you need to be really intentional, because if you are not, you'll waste a bunch of spend. And so as the next place, I recommend watching this video on screen. It'll just help walk you through more of the process on how to build a brand and how to scale and grow.